It is 7:01, September 14th, 2021. I call this meeting of the Wellfleet Select Board to order in accordance with the temporary suspension and enhancement of the open meeting law requirements by the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Before we get started, I would just like to observe a moment of silence for all those who lost their lives 20 years ago on September 11th, and for their families and friends. Okay, the first item on the agenda is open session and announcement, open session and public comments. Public comments must be brief, and the board shall not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. Danny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let the board know and the public know that Moby Dick's is going to be sponsoring a fundraiser to benefit the Fleet Fund. I know most of you know what the Fleet Fund is. This is a new nonprofit that was established to provide financial assistance to Wellfleet residents in need of immediate financial aid. The generosity of Todd and Miggs Barry. This will be on September 24th. That's a Friday, and it's from 11:30 to 8:30 p.m. So I would invite the board and the public who is watching this to come to Moby Dick's, enjoy a meal, bring your family and friends. We will have Fleet Fund board members there to provide information about the Fleet Fund. And as I said, Todd and Miggs have offered to donate a portion of the day's proceeds to benefit the Fleet Fund. So look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you very much.
What was that date?
September 24th, John.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Helen?
Yes, it's funny. I was going to announce something like what you asked for in the moment of silence without asking for that. I'd like us to remember the people in our armed forces who served in Afghanistan and gave their lives or were harmed in the conflict in Afghanistan that's been on for so long. And also the people of Afghanistan who have suffered so greatly during this conflict. Thank you.
Okay, Suzanne?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a brief announcement on the COA activities. After consultation with Hillary, we are able to open our doors, and we're resuming even more than we were in the summer, and resuming activities. The biggest one is that Marianne's Cafe will start live and in person on Thursday, first Thursday in October. Make a reservation by the Tuesday prior if you'd like to join us. Bridge is back on Fridays. The book clubs are resuming. Legal aid is back. And as of this afternoon, Wellfleet will have Shine counselors on a regular basis. Anybody who needs insurance counseling, who is new to Medicare, who would like to think about changing their Plan D, Part D plan in open enrollment, please call and we'll schedule you and let you know what paperwork you have to bring. These are two Wellfleet residents who went through the Shine training and have volunteered to participate for our people, and I'm very excited. The other piece is that we have we are in the process of scheduling our fall flu clinic. Date and time to be determined. And the last sad announcement is that Melissa Shantz, who has led our exercise classes for 20 years, has resigned. She has indicated that she will not be returning, and so we're trying to rebuild our exercise program. We're going to start with non-strenuous activities, no heavy breathing, no weightlifting. So if any of you know anyone who would like to or is able to teach Tai Chi, to teach chair yoga, to teach anything that you think would be fun for the people that are in Wellfleet and attend the COA, please send them our way and we'd love to talk to them. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. COVID-19 updates and recommendations. I do not see Hillary on tonight. So I'll go to the members of the board. Are there any from the members of the board? Okay. On to financial management work plan. Charlie?
Oh, thank you, Ryan. So we have provided a narrative update in your package that talks about the efforts that Lisa Sauvé, Mary McIsaac, and I have been making over the past several weeks. Mary is on the phone, I believe, and I'd like her just to discuss the plan that is in your package, if that's okay.
Yes.
And then I'll follow up at the end. Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on this is a phone call instead of a Zoom, and so appreciate that. Today's update brings us through September 9th, and we continue in our efforts to multifaceted work the prior years to close the years, with the priority being to, as we said previously, to set the FY22 tax rate, to certify the free cash for the town of Wellfleet as of June 30th, 2021, while we prepare also for the financial audit by the town's auditors of the FY21 records. And then here we come, opening the door for assisting with the capital plan and the operational budget and the enterprise fund budgets for, I hate to say it, FY23, since we're only in, passing the first quarter of FY22. But here we are, and over the last few weeks, we have implemented a schedule of finance team meetings that is held every other Tuesday, consisting of Charlie and Lisa Sauvé and myself, and the tax collector, the town treasurer, as well as the town assessor. The purpose of these meetings is to gather everyone together so that we can collaborate, disseminate as much information as we can from our backgrounds and experience, to try to help the team form, a bond where they really have shared goals, and we keep them on track, and they help us get to where we need to go in terms of our work. Lisa and I have also met with the treasurer and the town's financial advisor for the prep work related to the band sale, which occurred on September 2nd. And Lisa has continued to meet with department heads, most recently the community service director, with a goal of instituting policies and procedures for best practices regarding handling of receipts, preferably being handling credit card sales. A lot of the rest of the report that's before you is really what I would call closeout comments on work that we've completed, or updates to work that we have discussed previously. That really constitutes the work plan specifics. Year-end balances and reports is the next section, and we discuss our efforts with respect to debt service, which is actually closed out. That work is completed, and our reports are available for the auditors in connection with the FY21 audit. We are in the midst of reviewing outstanding receivables of the collectors, and I don't think that will be a long project, because the town of Wellfleet has actually been conscientious and pretty proactive about what we call closing the levies, which means, getting the residual pieces of outstanding taxes and excises taken care of within the limitations afforded by statute. So there's been a real effort towards that, and I think most of the oldest taxes that we look at only go back to 2015, which is actually really good. So we're happy to see that and happy to report that to you. The collector also has been busy with the latest tax taking. Ms. Murphy advertised and was completing the tax taking for FY21, which included a number of parcels. And so that process is completed and we're awaiting the recorded instruments to be handled by the town's attorney. I will say that her efforts have produced a collection of over $50,000 as of September 9th. And she has been in touch with other taxpayers who have proactively called, and they are working with Karen to pay their back taxes. So we're very happy to report that to you, and on we go. And with that, Mr. Chair, through you, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, does the board have any questions? Helen?
Yeah, hi. Thank you. I'm so glad this is happening. In the document, it says it refers to best practices for handling credit card sales. Is that codified in a document? In other words, is there something that when there's a succession of personnel that can be referred to for that? Is this in print, in other words?
This is in print. There's various alternatives for printed version of best practices, and what we have not stylized any of them for the town of Wellfleet, but as a result of meeting with the departments that handle credit card sales and looking at their procedures and their practices, we will develop a draft in writing for to be part of the financial policies, which we would present to the board for adoption.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is in the reserve for abatements overlay.
Yeah.
It says that certain charges to the overlay are not appropriate as taxation aid is the appropriate funding source. Can you clarify that a little?
Sure. Our review has disclosed that taxation aid awards were processed as exemptions, which what we call hit the overlay account, which reduces it. There's no need to process them as exemptions because the law provides for them to be funded by the taxation aid fund, which is contributed to by the taxpayers in Wellfleet.
Okay, and then what is the corrective action?
The corrective action will be that the Department of Revenue has agreed that if we provide evidence to them of the exemptions that were for taxation aid, we'll be able to adjust that, which will increase your overlay for the balance sheet for the year ended June 30th, 2021.
Okay. That's it for me for tonight. Charlie?
So I think as Mary talked about, we're making good progress. We've had a lot of cooperation from staff. We're appreciative of that. And so, we have a number of sort of critical projects that we're focused on. And, I'm a couple of weeks behind on the capital plan, but I'm going to start working on that. As Mary had mentioned, we're meeting with the financial team every other Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. The alternate Tuesday, Lisa, Mary, and I will be meeting, and we're going to start next week. And really, I've been starting to work on the financial forecast, but Lisa, Mary, and I will collaborate on that, and we'll be developing a 5-year forecast looking out over the horizon. That's kind of a critical task that we're focused on. The Department of Revenue has been really helpful. They have given us sort of a boilerplate document that is really robust. I like it a lot. It's a lot more detailed than I've used in the past. So our goal would be by probably the middle of October to have something to present, and we would like to do something with the select board and the finance committee together. And once the forecast is developed, then the selectmen we'll have a better idea of where we are relative to, really revenues versus expenses, and can start to develop some policies as we want to start looking over the horizon to start to work on the budget for FY 2023. It's kind of hard for me to think that far in advance, but anyway. But that's the plan. Now, Mary already mentioned that they're heavily engaged in working on getting the tax rate set for the current fiscal year. We do have a few challenges, and we've talked to the Department of Revenue. We're going to have a pre-meeting with them sometime soon, just to give them an update of, what we've accomplished, where we are, what some of the challenges are, and to make sure that we can do everything we possibly can to have a timely establishment of a tax rate. Property tax revenues are, 70% of our revenues are operational revenues. So we want to be timely on issuing tax bills to people. The free cash issue that Mary talked about is important, equally as important. Once we dive into this financial forecast, I'll have a better feeling about some of my maybe overly cautious concerns about the current fiscal year. But, knowing what we have for free cash, one of the first things that I'd like to focus on is replenishing some of the money that we've used in the out of the stabilization fund for the current fiscal year. That's sort of a priority for me. And then I'd also like to come up with a utilization plan for free cash, because I think we have a backlog of some capital items, and it might be nice to deal with a few of those at the December. What we're talking about is the December special town meeting. I just don't want to wait all the way till May and have this huge backlog of issues. So all of those things are happening. I would say too, that Department of Revenue was here again. The board knows this, but for the public, the Department of Revenue was here. Division of Local Services was here yesterday. They met with members of the Select Board and members of the Finance Committee. And so they've already met quite a while ago, several weeks ago, with myself and Lisa and Mary and members of the financial staff in town. And they'll be developing a report with some recommendations for the Select Board. And they suggest that probably will take about 2 months to complete. So that'll be good, because it'll give us a good sort of a game plan to march forward about what are some of the critical policy issues that we want to talk about as a community. And a number of those things, as Mary touched upon with the credit card issue, will be policies for financial management practices, so that, before Mary and Lisa and I leave, that we can have established policies for the town, for staff to follow, and for Select Board members in the Finance Committee to monitor relative to performance. The only other little item I'd like to mention is the Water Department. I've been working with the water commissioners, because we do, the Water Department, with I understand why, by design, operates in a deficit. It's supported by the tax levy. And we do have some outstanding billings and collections on the Water Department side. Karen Plantier, the administrative support person in the Water Department, has really been doing a good job working with the commissioners and staff to work on collections. We've sent out some letters, and we've had good response by some citizens to satisfy some of the outstanding obligations. And some of it is, with the turnover that we've had in the Water Department, some of that billing wasn't done on a timely basis. So we're also making good progress in that area. And that's just going to help out the bottom line, because, it does the water enterprise fund operates in a deficit. If we can make the deficit a little more modest, then that's going to help out, the larger financial picture for the town. So anyway, I'm going to jump on the capital plan, jump on the financial forecast, and then that'll lead to my ability to start working on the operating budget going forward. So I think that's all I have. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I have one. Do we know what the beach department revenues are for the year to date, or will that be at the end of the quarter?
Yeah, I think we could provide, I mean, unless Mary knows that, but I don't think we know that. Those are some of the things that we're going to be working on in more detail over the next few weeks as we put together the financial forecast.
Okay, John?
Yes, through you to Charlie. You mentioned the DOR having met with select board members. Is that what you had mentioned a while back that we would be doing? Because I never was notified. I just went through my emails today and I didn't see any notification of.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John. I'll have to.
I would have liked to have met with them.
Of course, and we would want you to. So let me. It doesn't. Let me just see if we had made an error on that, of course. And then at the very least, I would want you to be able to talk to that team, so we could always set up a Zoom meeting for you to meet with them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We definitely want as many people as possible to engage with them.
Okay. All right, so moving on, we
Chair,
got,
I just have one thing to say. All that, John, you were notified through the Board of Selectmen email, like the chair had asked me to send all notifications to the select board. You were on that email. I can forward it to you if you want. You and Michael DeVasta were the only two that didn't respond.
Okay, because I just went through my town emails today and not with that in mind, but I did not see that there.
Well, I think, more, we can just double check because we want to make sure we try to get it as right as possible. But it doesn't matter. I still think I would want to give, it's important, this is important, what we're going through, what we're dealing with. And I think I could work with DOR to set up a separate Zoom meeting so that you can have an opportunity to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say I didn't receive that email either. So if you could forward that, Rebecca. I don't know what happened in the loop there, but I didn't notice that either. Searching through here. So that's probably why I didn't respond.
Yeah, well, it's not fatal, and let's try it. We have time, so let's
Yeah,
try.
that's fine. That's fine. I just
Yeah.
also didn't receive it. Maybe there's some link between my town email and not getting through. So
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we have staff appreciation. I see Paul Bagnell. Is that the correct way to say it? Paul, sorry. Can you unmute him, Rebecca?
Can you hear me now? All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm here tonight and I'll make it really quick because you guys got a big agenda. But I am representing the Massachusetts Shellfish Officers Association, coming to you live from the town of Edgartown. Been to Wellfleet before, and you guys have a lovely town. And the first thing that I would like to say to the Board of Selectmen is thank you for all your support in the past for Mass Shellfish Officers Association. I've been on the board of directors for some years, and Wellfleet has been a supporter since the inception. We were incorporated in 1980, but we started meeting in the early 70s. that was a little bit before my time. I don't want to date myself that way, but so thank you to the board for your support. Nancy, this is an award from her peers, hands over. She won a lot of nominations when we requested them at last year's meeting. We usually request for nominations in December, and the award is given in March. And thankfully to COVID and a really busy summer, I'm not here until this September. But many kudos to Nancy. When we normally appear in person, there's usually a bunch of us from the board of directors as well as the Division of Marine Fisheries. So we'll skip that for tonight for brevity. But Nancy hit the ground running a couple years ago, and she's done a fantastic job. She's attends the meetings, asks lots of questions.
Sorry, Paul, you're
That Mass Shellfish officers meet well as every 2 to 3 Shellfish Constables course. And Nancy has asked lots of questions, done lots of learning, and she's actually given us some instruction, because part of our meetings are, presentation of what's in your town. And what Nancy did to get the farmed oysters to the general public last winter was above and beyond the call of duty. She had a lot of cooperation from people in town as well. But she was more than willing to share with MSOA how she did it. Other towns are starting to think about it. So much kudos. And at this time, I think I'll stop babbling and turn it over to Nancy. And she can probably give a much better presentation than me. But I know there are other shellfish officers, especially from the Cape, watching. And this is an award that you truly deserve. And I think it's your selectmen understand it is truly from your peers. So here's it over to you, and you can mute me now.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really humbled to receive this incredible award from my industry peers and Division of Marine Fisheries colleagues. I want to thank the Mass Shellfish Association, Shellfish Officers Association, and its members who nominated me, because you guys have guided me from my first day on the job. It's especially moving to receive this recognition after having been in my position for just 4 years. And I just hope it's a testament to my dedication to the shellfishing industry and my respect and passion for the amazing men and women who make their living on the water, because they're the ones who make the Wellfleet brand so successful. I'd like to thank the Wellfleet Select Board members who took a chance hiring me in 2017 and who believed in my abilities, and the members of the board today who continue to trust my judgment and support our entire team at the Shellfish Department. I'd like to thank my peers in the industry who have been invaluable. Shellfish Constables Paul Bagnall from Edgartown, Renee Gagney from Chatham, Amy Croto from Barnstable, and Nicole Payne from Eastham have really guided me on how to do this job, a job which does not come with an instruction manual. At the state level, Dan McKiernan, Jeff Kennedy, and Chrissy Petipus have been instrumental in my professional development, as has Eric Hickey with the Department of Public Health. And the Shellfishman's Farmers Market would not have happened without their commitment to the industry and our out-of-the-box efforts together. I want to thank all the people in different town departments for going above and beyond to establish new collaborations with the Shellfish Department to make our work more effective. In particular, Chiefs Hurley and Polly, Harbor Master Will Sullivan, Jean McLaughlin, and everyone at the DPW, the Beach Department, and Health and Conservation. We have accomplished much in these last few years, from expanding our coaching program to moving our permitting online. And their guidance has helped me be a better advocate for the shellfishing community. In the winter of 2017, when the town was looking for a new shellfish constable, I attended a meeting of the shellfishing community where they determined the priorities for the new hire. And I heard loud and clear that this department needed to strengthen enforcement, propagation, and more importantly, transparency and communication. These goals became my mission. When I started, there was virtually no propagation program, no grant inspections were conducted, and no interactions were with other town departments. Today, we've created a robust propagation program, distributing hundreds of thousands of oysters and quahogs around the harbor each year. And these provide an economic opportunities for commercial shellfishermen and food for the tables of our recreational shellfishing community. We've written multiple grants, receiving nearly $40,000 from outside organizations to help with our propagation efforts. And I created the Town Shellfish Crier, an email newsletter that keeps the community up to date on important news about shellfish area openings and closures, regulation changes, upcoming events, and other opportunities. Based on feedback that I've been getting from shellfishermen, among other things, I now attend Conservation Commission meetings to represent their voices when proposed beachfront work could impact shellfish resources and farming operations. And I work with the Rights of Public Access Committee to make sure we're preserving shellfishermen's access to the flats into the future. When COVID-19 struck in March of 2020, our shellfishermen had no place to sell their shellfish because markets abruptly shut down. The restaurant industry took a nosedive, and restrictions took a toll. Travel restrictions took a toll on vacation destinations such as cruise ships, New York City, Las Vegas. But we were not going to let this virus derail all we had achieved and leave our community stranded. We reached out and forged a collaboration between shellfishermen, nonprofits, the state, and the town to create the first of its kind Shellfishermen's Farmers Market. This market not only put money into shellfishermen's pockets every week during the pandemic, but it created incredible community connections. More than 100 people showed up each week to pick up shellfish and meet the shellfishermen who harvested it. The one-on-one exchanges between consumer and shellfishermen were, for some people, the only live human interactions they had all week. And the shellfishermen were encouraged and proud to see such enthusiasm about their product up close. None of this would have been possible without my two closest colleagues. I am so grateful to Johnny Clam and Chris Manula. Their patient mentoring about Mother Nature and human nature, and combined 37 years of experience as shellfish constables, sharing their wealth of experiences and histories here is why we are a powerful force. In 2019, Johnny and Chris both received recognition as Deputy Constables of the Year, and they earn it every day. I want to thank my family and friends for believing in me and supporting me as I moved into this incredible career. Who knew this job would become my true calling? But I would not be here, nor would Wellfleet benefit from the rich cultural and financial resources of our shellfishing heritage, were it not for the shellfishermen who spend hours out in every kind of weather, lives governed by the tides, not the clock, in order to bring the best possible oysters and clams to market and keep this town thriving all year long. It is to them that I am most grateful. They have been gracious and patient with me as I learn the ropes, and they continue to support and guide me in our team's efforts to sustain and nurture the largest and most lucrative shellfish producing town in the state. I'm honored to oversee an $8 million industry that is growing and changing rapidly. And my goal is to continue to work hard, advocate for our industry, and make you proud. I will always maintain a focus to ensure that shellfishermen in Wellfleet today and the generations to come have a sustainable, rewarding, and honorable way to make a living here year round. So I do plan on being here for a while, and thank you for this recognition.
Mike Hurley. Sorry. Give us a second. Can you unmute him?
Nope, thank
Oh,
you.
there we go. All right.
I'm sure she'd like to keep me muted. Nope, just real quick, Mr. Chair, our department has worked very close with Nancy over the past few years, developing a very close relationship. And she is a true professional with communication, care. Just a few weeks ago, they dropped off some things for the officers after a long summer, and it meant the world. I wanted to know that. So the Constable Award couldn't have gone to a better person and more deserving. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Nancy, I can just say it was a pleasure working with you over the winter as well. So thank
You
you.
did a great job too.
Woohoo!
All right. Yeah. You know, this is one thing with Zoom, you can't hear everybody clapping. All right, so on to public hearings. So, yeah. Second.
So right here, if I could, just a minute, Ryan.
Yep.
In the building, I have Jim O'Connell, Nancy O'Connell, and Jim Mulpeter for the first A and B here.
Okay. So A is to add Jim how do you say his last name? Mulpeter?
Mulpeter, I said it wrong.
Mulpeter. Okay. Mulpeter to Shellfish Grant licenses number 85J and 85JA. Are there any comments from the board? Mike? Sorry, you're muted.
Hang on one second.
Mike, is it to excuse
Yep,
yourself?
all right. Yeah, this is just to recuse myself, and I'll just do it from here. I'm going to recuse myself from all of the public hearings, except for the use of town property fee schedule.
Yep.
All the shellfish related ones.
Okay.
Okay.
And I see that Jim's in front with Nancy. So Jim, if you could just give a quick introduction, but otherwise, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been working with Jim O'Connell since 2015. Worked summer of 2015 with him, 2016. And then 2017, I worked on a farm in Rhode Island. And I got my master's degree in environmental science and management from URI. And then I came back here full time in 2018, and I've been here since. And I plan on being here for the rest of my life, farming out there.
All right, awesome. So I move to approve the transfer of grant licenses 85J and 85JA from James O'Connell to James O'Connell and James Mulpeter.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Ryan, I. Helen?
Oh, Helen, I. Right. Mike, you.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the second public hearing for Jim Mulpeter. So I move to approve the transfer of grant license 00-1 and 00-1 extension from James O'Connell and Nancy O'Connell to James O'Connell, Nancy O'Connell, and James Mulpeter.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Well, good luck out there. All right, on to grant license 01-1 extension. Nancy?
Yes, sorry, people are leaving.
Oh, no worries.
So basically, these are very small changes to what you've already approved. There's, I've done strike throughs in bold, but.
Oh,
but-
no, we're
No,
on,
no.
we're on,
Oh, sorry, we're on Ralph.
yep,
And yeah, I don't have anybody here for that. Sorry.
okay.
So you can
Okay.
just do it normally.
Yeah, I
Let
think
me
it's
just
pretty,
see if anybody's in the audience. Let me see.
yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if anybody in the audience, they can, I don't see any hands up. So I move to approve the transfer of Shellfish Grant License 01-01 extension from Ralph Bassett, Rodney Avery, and George Pierce III to Ralph Bassett and Rodney Avery.
Helen second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 3-0.
So the one thing that I did want to say about this is just the educational piece about Mass General Law and paying your fees. So I hope everybody read the memo, and it's stuff that you're likely going to hear again in the future. Hear about again in the future.
All right, so on to Shellfish Regulations, section 7.6.1.
I have my hand up. Sorry, I have my hand up.
Okay, well, we've already had the motion and
Yeah,
voted.
no, I know. I just wanted to add something to what Nancy said, if you don't mind.
I would like to move on.
Too long.
So,
Sorry.
okay, so we are on to amending section 7.6.1. Nancy?
So this is pretty small changes, except for the fact that there were some things that Mass DMF said, in order to be clear and also comply with Mass General Law. So those are the ones that I put kind of in yellow. And then the other thing that we did was add in that the Shellfish Department needs to advise any intertidal abutters who share boundaries. So number 6, because this didn't happen and in the past, and it proved to be a problem. So it seems the correct thing to do, that neighbors understand what's going on.
Okay, I have a question about the changes to 8B. So the
Right.
note from
Chrissy?
yeah, is that the MIPA filing is for areas over a half an acre. We just approved an extension that was for, what was it, a quarter of an acre earlier this year. For a grant, for an extension of that size, that would not trigger the MIPA review. Except in these regulations, it would require it in that case. So I think it would make more sense to have it reflect the half acre requirement. So that an applicant does not have to go through an expensive process for a relatively small area.
Okay, so I could just put something like including but not limited to applications for MIPA if over a half acre.
Yes,
Okay. If a half acre.
yeah, a half acre or larger. Are there any comments from the board?
Yes, I move that we include that amendment to the document.
Okay, I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. I move to amend section 7.6.1 of the Wellfleet Shellfish Policy and Regulations as amended. Yeah, as amended.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, Mike, you can come back now. So Wellfleet Spat, one-day beer and wine license for October 9th, 2021. Is there somebody from SPAT here? Okay, Kathy Cushman. Can you unmute her, please, Rebecca?
Yep, give me a second. I gotta go down the list.
Yep.
Hi there, I'm Katie Cushman from SPAT.
Oh, sorry, I did this to you last time too.
That's okay, I kind of like it. I kind of like Kathy. So the last time we met, we were talking about the use of town property. And this time we've applied for a one-day beer and wine license for the Art and Oyster Crawl. This will be the third Art and Oyster Crawl. We did one in 2018 and one in 2019, extremely popular and fun. And so that's what we're doing this year.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Okay. I move to approve the one-day beer and wine license for October 9th, 2021 to the Wellfleet SPAT.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. So
Thank
good
you.
luck, Katie.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Use of town property fee schedule. So this goes back to where every time we've had applicants before us, we're debating what a fee might be. And I wish Janet was here tonight because this is something that she's been asking to discuss for a while. But unfortunately, she's not able to make it. So Helen?
Yes, and I was going to say something about Janet not being here and this being something she requested also. I feel that we should wait on this until the next meeting, mainly because it wasn't the existing fees was not included in our packet for basis of comparison. And that's always done when new fees are set. And the reason for that is you have to really look at how big of a jump it is. So respectfully, we need to address this, but I would like to wait until the next meeting. Thank you.
Mike?
I wouldn't mind waiting. I have a couple issues with the fees. But if we're going to wait, then I'm not going to bring them up now.
Okay, I would like to wait until Janet's here. She just notified us late this afternoon. So I don't know. Can that be re-advertised as soon as possible? Charlie?
We can continue it.
Oh,
We don't
I
have to
I don't think
Okay.
you need to advertise it again, just continue it.
okay. I move to continue the hearing on the use of town property fee schedule.
Helen, second.
Roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Motion carries 4-0. All right. So update from the chair. So I've been trying to figure out ways to kind of have our meetings go a little bit faster. Both in terms of, for the public and for ourselves, and also so if we have a number of items, we can get through them a little bit faster. So one of the things I would like to try doing is introducing consent agendas. These would be for routine, non-controversial items, so that we don't have to make a number of motions. A consent agenda actually requires unanimous consent. So if any member of the board would like to remove an item from the agenda, all they need to do is say that they would like to remove it from the agenda.
Excuse me, Ryan. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could I be recognized?
Yes.
Yeah, I had trouble unmuting, so I was struggling here. If we're going to continue it and you don't want to incur the cost of re-advertising, we're going to have to establish a date and a time. that
Okay.
we Continue it to. Sorry about that.
So I move to reconsider the previous motion.
Second, Helen second.
Roll call vote.
John, I.
Brian, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. I move to amend the motion to read and to continue the hearing until September 28th, 2021.
Helen second.
Do we need a time, Charlie? Or is that close? Is that good enough? Because I can't guarantee a time.
At 7 PM, I think we would just say at 7 PM.
Okay, at 7 PM.
Helen second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Ryan, aye.
Michael, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. All right, so yeah, okay, so back to update from the chair. So Helen, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and the first thing I was going to say, we just dealt with. I
Okay,
remembered that we had to do date certain. So thank you for addressing this. It's something that should be refreshed and looked at regularly. However, there's some things in this document that I find quite disturbing and in my experience, not efficient. The first thing is, I'm not sure who wrote the agenda item, but this is proposed. In other words, the chair doesn't have a right to impose some of this on a board or committee. I mean,
actually,
hold on.
the chair does. I've checked.
Some of it, yes, and some of it, no. You're proposing it is excellent. Consent agendas often take more time because somebody always picks something out. So I'm just putting that out there, but I'm, fine with that. But telling people how to speak in public is very, very iffy because
So that's covered.
Hold on,
Helen,
don't interrupt me.
respectfully, that's covered under Robert's rules.
Yes, it is, but
And
let
there's a
me
2-minute time limit in Robert's rules.
Yes, but hold on.
Yes.
You just interrupted me, and that's not good. Let me finish because I'm responding to this document, which is responsibly done, and we're considering it. New people come onto the board. A lot of people have a hard time speaking in public. I trust that everybody makes their best effort to do it. But telling people something as obvious as each speaker should make their point or point succinctly, of course we should try to do that. I try. I've gotten better at it over the years. But we have to remember the abiding fact is that this is the only place that this committee, which is how it's referred to in the charter, can discuss things with each other. In the past, I've had a board member, this is in the past, say to me, oh, Helen, we all talk outside of meetings. I try not to unless I'm talking to a chair, trying to set up an agenda item for which I have to provide some kind of rationale. But it becomes a little bit too controlling, in my opinion, when you're telling people how to put their thoughts forward to the rest of the board. And I try my best. The rest of us should try our best. We should be respectful to each other, obviously. And 2 minutes is usually enough time for anybody. I stay under it. I've timed myself in the past. And we all should not repeat something that's already been said. We can double down on what the previous person has said. I do this frequently. I say, I agree with John, I agree with, Janet, whatever. But where you say some housekeeping, now I have I've said some things that I was concerned about, but I have a question about D, 1D, Ryan, to you.
Yep.
When you think about housekeeping, what are you thinking of? I'm not challenging it. I'm just wondering what you're thinking of, because I have one suggestion for housekeeping too. It's not on here.
I haven't decided it yet, but there's some housekeeping items that do come up. So,
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to say, I wanted to be sure you weren't thinking the same thing I am. Something I've noticed over the years and said things about is, so the public gets to see all the applications for boards and committees and whatever you want to call them. We get to see them. And having an applicant have to go over what's already in the application during a meeting takes actually quite a lot of time. And I would have applicants have to show up so we can see their faces, with their names, whether in public, virtually, or actually. And to have there be the possibility of asking them questions. But I really feel that the information is already provided, and we could save time by simply not doing that over again at a public meeting. Thank you.
okay, Mike.
I think, we've tried to do the speaking time thing before, and I think if it wasn't a problem, it wouldn't keep coming up. So I think asking people to make their points succinctly isn't telling them how to do it. It's just, putting it on paper that we should be thinking of what we want to say and, trying not to stray off topic. I mean, essentially, that's what it says. The fact that we have to say it says something about the fact that we have routinely had 4-hour meetings. And, sometimes the agendas are long, but sometimes we wind up, taking a lot of time on things that we vote unanimously to approve. And, I think that, obviously we have to trust the chair to not abuse his authority as the chair, but putting it down on paper, what he's expecting seems totally appropriate to me. So I approve of this. And I do agree with Helen that sometimes when you try and take things all at once, they wind up taking longer than going through them individually. But I had this a conversation, I cannot remember with who before, about certain things that the board sort of rubber stamps, having an agent that can approve those things on behalf of the board, such as certain types of licenses, liquor licenses and stuff like that. That is a possibility. I don't know if I talked to Charlie about that before or someone else, that not everything in other towns winds up coming before the board, even though we are the signatures on those licenses. So, whatever. But I think moving things along is definitely welcome for me.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I agree. I had a similar conversation with somebody as to what Mike just described. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was a former member of the select board from quite some time ago who had mentioned the advisability of just routine things like minor uses of public property, such as, if somebody wants to use the beach for a wedding, a small wedding, that could go to someone else for approval, or that we could consider such requests as a group and save quite a bit of time that way. And especially things that aren't controversial, as you mentioned. And I agree. I don't feel that I'm being told how to present when I see something like this. It's just a suggestion that, make the effort to corral your thoughts and put them in a concise form, I don't think that's, I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay. And so I would just like to add that it is something that even our town moderator reminds people of at town meeting to try to make their points fairly succinctly. And then I would also like it, as I said here, if we can ask the questions to the speakers first, rather than in the middle of making a number of points. It leads to a more organized discussion, and it is easier for people to respond in that case. Helen?
Yeah, I think we have to trust ourselves as members to do all these things. Now, a few beats ago in the same meeting, I had a substantial fact to add purposely after we discussed it and voted on it. It was going to take less than 30 seconds. And the chair, who had no idea what I was going to say, Ryan, didn't let me say it.
So
Hold on.
point of order, Helen. Respectfully, I had already moved on.
Still
To the next.
talking. Please, I need to say this for all of us to hear. I'm communicating not only with you, but with the other two members of the board and whoever else is listening. You have to trust us to try to make these meetings go well. And also you have to trust us to put what needs to be thought about on the table carefully. Thank you.
So respectfully, I had already moved on to the next topic. We were basically off that agenda item already. And this is one of those things where you have to do this earlier rather than after we've voted and moved on to the next item. So that's all I'll add on that. So Principal Clerk, use of town property for Cat Williams. All right, well, while she's waiting to be unmuted, I'm going to make the motion and we can debate it after the motion's made and she can speak on it. I move to approve the use of the bandstand at the town pier on September 26, 2021 from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. to Cat Williams for a fee of $110.
Helen, second.
Okay. Cat, I see that you're unmuted now.
Hi, hi everybody. I've never done this before, so I'm not really sure what you require of me, but I am a resident of Wellfleet and a teacher in the district. I'm also a volunteer DJ at WOMR. And with one of the other DJs there, T-Mac, we thought it would be fun to have a free dance party at the bandstand. And my only, I wanted to see if I could request a change in date, if possible, to October 3rd or 10th, because we just realized that we don't have enough time to promote it should we be approved. So it would just be a fun, family-friendly event.
Okay, so I would move to amend the motion to read on October 3rd, 2021.
Thank you.
Helen, second.
Okay.
Does that give you enough time, Ms. Williams?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay, Chief Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to remind everyone, Sunday, I believe it's Sunday, October 3rd, is the Oyster Fest, kind of an all-day event with the road race and the bonfire and things going on. So that may be a bad date.
So October 10th would probably be the better date.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so I move to amend the motion to read October 10th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Michael, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, and then so that was, okay, so then that motion was just to amend. So we need another motion.
Well, you amended the motion.
Yep,
Okay, so now but the motion was made.
yep,
So, and it's been seconded now, yeah?
And
yeah.
voted.
So I move the motion.
Okay, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Good luck. And I hope it's a good time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So appointments to appoint Lori Rudder to the Personnel Board.
She's here and I just asked to unmute her.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Lori. So your application's really complete. That's all I'll say. Does anybody have any questions for her? Okay, so I think that she would be a really good candidate. So I move to appoint Lori Rudder to the Personnel Board with a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2024, and to be sworn in by the town clerk and follow all rules and regulations to be on a town committee or board.
Can I do, I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yep.
I wrote a second part of that motion, which I'd like to substitute if you don't mind.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and we should, I think, use this language whenever we appoint people as opposed to what's being normally put in. So I move to appoint Lori Rudder to the Personnel Board with a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2024, period. And then the appointee shall be sworn in by the town clerk before acting as a member of the committee and can comply with the town charter and all state and local requirements while serving the town, instead of something that's a bit general and leaves some things out, which is the part of that sentence that's now in the motion. So it says the same thing, but it does it with accurate references. Thank you. Can we do that, please?
fine. So
You want to
second,
read it again?
second. Roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. So thank you,
Rebecca.
Lori.
Yeah, Rebecca, I'm sending you a text of this so that you can see the language. Thank you.
And thank you for including in this some personal narrative. I feel like we knew who we were putting in place here. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. I'll be eager to hear a little bit more about the other people who are on it and look at some past meeting minutes. I've spent some time after talking with Helen on the website. So I'll look forward to learning a little bit more about where this committee has been and when it will be meeting in the future. Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you. All right. So appointment of Deborah Freeman to the Board of Health. I think we're all familiar with Debbie. I have no issue, and that board really needs an additional member. So Helen, if you could you make the motion?
You bet. I move that we appoint Deborah Freeman to the Board of Health for a term of 3 years to end June 30th, 2024. The appointee shall be sworn in by the town clerk before acting as a member of the committee and shall comply with the town charter and all state and local requirements while serving the town.
Okay, second. Roll call vote, please.
Second.
It's a
Yep.
roll call vote.
Roll
Joe.
call vote, please.
John, John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, the Wellfleet Cultural Council. So for anybody who's looking at the packet, there was an additional communication from Yvonne Barakis. And she was asking that, or they didn't realize it was till 11. But she's asking if it could be 13 members rather than the proposed 11. I would say I'm willing to compromise on that. Right now, there's currently 11 members. And there's one applicant on the agenda tonight after this. So, Helen?
Yeah, so that would then give them 12 members, correct? But there could be one more.
Yes.
I really think that this group sounds like they're working together very well, and Suzanne Proud-Thomas gave us a nice rundown of how they're functioning, which sounds wonderful. And I spoke with Yvonne today and thanked her for a letter. But I really think with a view for the future and the fact that it's a little task to chair this, to change this kind of thing, but it's surprising how long it can take. And I really think we should keep it at 11. And that gives them a quorum of 6, which is achievable. And given that we can rethink this when the pandemic completely passes. But right now, we may be looking at a situation where it's kind of over, but there's still vulnerable people. And hybrid isn't going to work so well. And I just think we should have it be 11, which is a big committee, and remind everybody that people can show up and participate as the public. You know, that happens in Shellfish Committee meetings. And the people that speak from the audience are fully effective as participants, even if they can't vote. So that's just what I think about it. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed at the participation level for this committee. And I think it hasn't been a problem for them making quorums. And I don't have a problem with it being 13. I think so long as that works for the committee and it's functional, then I think we should respect that as a board. And if it becomes a problem, it's really a matter of a vote at that time. And really the problem seems like it would arise from not being able to make quorums. I don't know what else, because they're not really a regulatory board. I just think that if they have the active engagement and they're a functional board, that we should leave it the way it is or bring it down to 13, but I don't see a problem at 13.
Okay, Yvonne?
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to thank you for raising it from 7 to 11. We were very concerned, and I appreciate all the kind words. We are a really productive, wonderful board. We provide anything from 20 to 40 grants in the arts and humanities, and it keeps the town going throughout the year. The reason why I asked that we go from 11 to 13 is that various members end their term at different parts of the year. And there are times when we're able to get one person on board, but there's a little overlap before the next one drops. Typically, we do try to aim for 11, but there are times when there is an overlap and we do need a little bit of leeway. So we would be so appreciative if you could bring it to 13 and make this kind of transitional time easier for us.
Okay, John?
Just a question, what would be the quorum if we bring it up to 13?
That would be 7. Actually, the Massachusetts Council allows us to have 22 members. We would not have 22 members. That's an awful lot, and we're a smaller town. But having, we had brought it down here in the town at 15, and we were very comfortable with it. I understand you wanted to bring it down a bit. And with 13, first of all, we've never had a problem with a quorum. We have incredible attendance. It's once a month, and everybody's really dedicated to attending and being part of this. So yeah, 7 members.
Okay. So I'd be comfortable moving it on 13. So I move to reduce the size of the Wellfleet Cultural Council from 15 members to 13.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay,
You got it.
Thank you so much.
Yep, motion carries 4-0. So on to appointment to the Wellfleet Cultural Council. So Kevin McMahon, which I'm probably saying wrong because I'm horrible with this.
Nope, that's correct.
Okay. So I think it's pretty clear that he's a qualified applicant for it. He has a history in the arts. So I move to appoint Kevin McMahon to the Wellfleet Cultural Council for a term of 3 years to end June 30th, 2024. And Helen.
Yeah, and hold on, I've just lost that language. Sorry, and to add the sentence that's at the end of those. No, here we go. And the appointee shall be sworn in by the town clerk before acting as a member of the committee and shall comply with the town charter and all state and local requirements while serving the town.
Second, or I made the motion, but so can somebody else second it?
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, and good luck. So Town Administrator Search Committee. So this is to both establish a charge and then to advertise the committee for membership. So a lot of this is the charge is modified slightly from what was presented by Charlie earlier, to say what the number of members are. So Helen?
Yeah, so and I checked with Charlie about this. We discussed whether or not to use a consultant again, but we did not vote on it. We did not make a decision about using a consultant or not. And I think that given that most of us have had now some experience with this, at least I have, God knows. I feel it's questionable, or if we do use a consultant, and your language here, or the language that we're looking at for a charge, clearly includes using a consultant. And I think we should we should clarify whether or not we want one. And if we do, we should figure out what that consultant's going to do, because not everything the last one did is necessary, particularly because it happened a little over a year ago. And we have all those documents. We can refer to them. We paid for them. And I think we really need to look at it because that was expensive. It was a little chunk of change there. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm planning on having the question of a consultant on the next meeting. This is so that we get this out now and start getting membership now, or applicants, because there's going to be a bit of a lead time to receive applicants for this, and then make appointments. Helen?
Yes, to respond to that, that makes sense to me. Let's just take out the language in this document of the committee charge that refers to the town's recruitment consultant as a certain thing. Say after that comma, if one is hired. Okay? That's all we have to do. And
That's fine.
Yeah. So after, whenever that's referred to, town's recruitment consultant, comma, if one is hired.
Okay,
And it comes up in a couple of sections. That's pretty easy to fix.
okay.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I also just would like to say that as we go through this process, I think we should do it with a view towards getting some fresh faces on that committee. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna amend for Helen already did it. That's all. I didn't do
Okay.
that. My hand was still up. Other than
Um,
that, I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I move to approve the committee, Town Administrator Search Committee as amended.
Committee charge as
Committee
amended.
charge, sorry.
As amended. Helen second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, the second part of this is advertising for members for the committee. In Provincetown, they did advertise in the papers to get a diverse pool of applicants for their committee.
I think that's a very, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
I think that's a very good idea.
Yep. So is there any questions on this by members of the board or the public? Go ahead.
I think 3 is too small. Oh,
There's 3.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I just misread that. Okay, so how many members, have we decided how many members of the screening committee there'll be?
7. It was in the charge.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's in there.
okay. Sorry, I just read 3 to 5. Okay.
Yep, that's for the,
That's
they
for
would
the
recommend.
amount of applicants that get through to us.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So,
Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
Important. It's important that when this is advertised, it's made clear in the advertisement that these people will have to show up and meet intensively over a limited period of time. Because when I was on a pre-screening committee and otherwise, I've heard people don't always get it. They might have to meet, like twice a week for a month sometimes. It depends. But that should be in the advertisement, intense period of meeting and then it's over. It's not worded right when I just said it, but it has to be in there. Otherwise people think, oh, we'll meet once a month.
okay.
That happened.
Well, it does say when, about what the time frame is for the expected product, but Charlie, what would your recommendation be in terms of that concern? Sorry, he's muted now. All right,
I think I'm okay now, right?
yep,
Yeah, no, I think
Battle
we-
every time.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I did work with the Provincetown Committee recently, and I think we had 21 meetings, if I'm not mistaken. So it's an intense activity, and we need people to participate. We had a good process up there. So I think we could just add some language just to inform people about the narrow timeline and attendance requirements. So we can just add some language here for the ad.
okay,
So as long as the board is generally in favor with it, maybe Ryan and I could just work together to finalize this. But, as I say, Helen is right. I mean, this is many person hours that are going to go into this. Even that process to, preparation and reviewing resumes and applications. and then doing the interviews themselves. It'll be intense and time consuming.
Okay, I move to authorize the posting of a public notice in the Provincetown Independent, the Cape Codder, and the Cape Cod Times newspapers, advertising for committee members for the 2021 Town Administrator Search Committee. I'm just leaving out as printed in the packet, just to be clear, so that we can make the modification indicating indicating the level of commitment that's required. Is there, okay. Roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, aye.
Oh, Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. All right, so moving on to the town clerk to have the vote or to have Wellfleet remain a single print election precinct. Is Jennifer on here or Charlie? Oh, yeah, she's here. I see you. All right, Jennifer.
So we got our census data back from the federal census, and our number at 353,556 is well below the number of 6,200 that would be required to go to a second precinct for election purposes. So there's no reason to, but they asked the select board to take a vote to remain a one precinct town.
Okay. I move to approve that the town of Wellfleet will remain a one precinct town for all election purposes pursuant to MGL Chapter 40 or Chapter 54, Section 6.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, High Toss Road, Carol Ridley, to,
Hang on one second. Carol and both
and Town
flying
Council.
around here. Yep, hang on one second. Okay, they both should be unmuted.
Okay, who's presenting? Is it Carol?
Well, good evening. Carol Ridley, coordinator for the Herring River Restoration Project. And yes, I'll just start and then Katie can fill in with any details. But this step is close to the last step of the process in the town acceptance of the layout of High Toss Road that started back last spring with a number of actions taken by the select board and town meeting and all the notifications to property owners and abutters. So what's in your packet is the final order, and that order and a Mylar of the layout plan, which you've seen previously, is the subject of your action this evening. And I'll refer the particulars of that to Katie. But I will say, just from a logistics standpoint, the actual Mylar that you will be asked to vote to sign along with the order, that will be available this week. And we can make that available to Rebecca to let you know when that's in the office for signature, should you vote this evening to do that.
Okay, Town Council, Catherine Klein.
Yes, good evening. Yes, we've been working on this for a while, and several years, in fact. And you have the order of taking before you, and the reason that the Mylar is not ready this evening or at this point is that this is all registered land. So we're just doing a last minute title update to make sure that we have all of the owners listed correctly. Carol has worked very hard on this project, along, of course, with people from the town. And I believe the owners are all, fully aware of what is, taking place. This road has been maintained by the town, but through a lot of research, we weren't able to establish that it was actually public. I may be saying things that you already know, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. And that's why we're going forward with this action this evening.
Okay, and then what would be the correct motion?
The motion would be to adopt and execute the order of taking and to approve the plan that I believe you've seen. And that needs to be signed as well. But I would recommend that if you want to go forward, you approve and move to execute both the plans and the order of taking.
Helen?
So we can do this without the Mylar? Through you, Ryan, to Katie.
You mean you can vote on it without the Mylar?
We could, yeah. Can we do that without having the Mylar, without having, we got, should we call them maps in our packet? And
right.
Is this a complete and legal motion vote? If we have these documents that we have in the packet, you have reviewed them?
Yes, the Mylar will be identical to the
okay.
You have. The only thing is that the actual Mylar itself that needs to be recorded hasn't been generated by the surveyor.
But it's exactly the same. So could you go over the words of the motion again, please, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Adopt order of taking and to what?
Adopt and execute the order of taking and approve and execute the Mylars depicting High Toss Road.
Well, but how can we refer to them as Mylars?
Excuse me, the plans.
Thank you. And approve and execute the plans as included in our packet. Can I do that? That's better.
Surely.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second the motion, but then Mike?
I was just gonna make the motion, but
I just wrote it down. Do you want me to do it?
Helen didn't make the motion yet, so.
Oh, she
And
didn't?
then Carol has her hand up, Ridley.
Okay.
Oh, Carol?
Just a quick question. Thank you. Do we need to have anything about the registration with the Registry of Deeds, the recording at the Registry of Deeds in the motion, Katie?
Not necessarily, but you could authorize town council to record the order of taking and Mylars once prepared and signed.
Thank you.
So should that be in the motion too?
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah, you can include that.
Okay, can you give me those words again, please?
Yes, and authorize town council to file the order of taking and Mylars with the Registry of Deeds.
Order of taking and Mylar plans.
With the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah. Okay, we can read it out.
Can you read it out for the record, Helen?
Yeah. You want me to read it out as a motion or just read it out?
Yes, please.
I move to adopt and execute the order of taking and to approve and execute the plans as included in our packet and to authorize town council to file the order of taking Mylar plans with the Registry of Deeds. Katie, does that sound right through you, Brian?
The thing I would add is that between order of taking and Mylar plans at the end. I think you.
And
That's one thing.
let me do it again. I move to adopt and execute the order of taking and to approve and execute the plans as included in our packet, and to authorize town council to file the order of taking Mylar plans.
I was thinking order of taking and Mylar plans.
Order of taking and Mylar plans at the Registry of Deeds. Thank you.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Dredging contract award. Is Will on the call?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
And Charlie is,
And town council is here too. I'm gonna unmute him.
yep, and GEI.
I'm looking. Yep, they've all been asked to unmute, so they're good to go.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over to GEI to explain the process and the bid results. And then probably you'll want to hear from town council as well, or if you do. So we'll just let the experts go right at this for you. Dan Robbins is here, our engineer from GEI. I know you've all met him before, but I'll turn it right over to him. Dan, if you're here.
Okay, Dan.
I will, and select board as well. So we had 4 very qualified contractors bid on the project. It was put out through public bidding. They had 2 weeks to receive the bid documents and bid on the project. From those contractors, due to the fact that this project is going to have some state funding available to it as well, the contractors needed to be pre-qualified through the Mass DOT in the classification of dredging. 3 of the 4 contractors that bid on the project had that pre-qualification at the time of bidding. And from there, we opened the bids, did some reference follow-ups as well, and reviewed their technical qualifications, as well as what they were planning on for sequencing and their equipment that they had available. And through that, came up with the recommendation for the second lowest bidder, who was the first responsible qualified bidder for the project, being Burnham Associates. We had the recommendation to award the contract to them.
Okay, and then Greg.
Nope, it's John Giorgio from.
Oh,
Paper
John.
Rock.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
John Giorgio, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. So I have reviewed the bids that were submitted and also the recommendation from GEI Consultants. And I concur that the award of the contract to Burnham Associates would appear to be in order. The lowest bidder was not responsive because they did not have the required Mass DOT certification qualification. So they were ineligible to be considered. I know that the third bidder, Robert Biawa, has raised a question about whether the town can consider Burnham because Burnham did not actually submit the written qualification statement. However, prior to the opening of the bids, DOT had provided the town with the qualifications for Burnham, Hour, and J. Cashman. And there's nothing in the bid document itself that requires the physical submission of that qualification along with the bid. The town was aware of it. They are the apparent low bidder, and I don't see any basis not to uphold the protest that Robert B. Hour has made. I don't think they've made a formal bid protest to the Attorney General. So I think the board can certainly go ahead and award the contract. If there is a formal protest made, then we will certainly deal with that at the appropriate time. But at this point, I would concur with the recommendation of award to Burnham Associates.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yes.
John?
I'm aware of the fact that we do have the responsibility to go with the lowest bid. I can only say that I hope that Burnham is capable of matching the record that Cashman set when they did the first phase, being ahead of schedule and doing an excellent job. I would have liked to have seen them get the second phase, but I understand what we have to do here. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay. So I move to award the Wellfleet Harbor Area 1 dredging project to Burnham Associates Incorporated. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, aye. Helen, thumbs up. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. What's next on the agenda?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and good luck pulling all the boats out.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you as well.
Remote participation policy. Okay, are there any questions on this policy from the board?
Hold on, I'm just still scrolling down to it here.
Yeah, it's quite a few pages later. Helen? Helen, you're muted.
Hi, sorry. On the third page, or the second page rather, it says the Wellfleet Select Board authorizes the use of a single video conferencing platform to be used by all bodies of the town of Wellfleet. Does this language imply that will only authorize the use of a single, or does it simply, wouldn't that be a better way to put it? Because I didn't quite understand that.
So there's only one video conference platform being used at a time.
Okay, so just the Wellfleet Select Board will authorize the use of this better. The other thing that I sort of scratched my head about is, as you know, with permission from the chair, one can record a meeting. Now, one of our difficulties is minutes from executive sessions. I take fervent notes, but I can't cover everything. And executive sessions are often very, very important. You know, they're hairy, they're critical. And if there's no recording, the person who's taking the minutes, which is sometimes a member of the board, has no way of checking exactly what the issues were. And because there's no recording of it even after the minutes get released, we never know how good they are. For example, right now, and I'm not faulting the minute taker for 1 minute. We have some executive session minutes that we haven't approved, never mind whether we release them or not. We might not be ready to do that. And they've happened now so many weeks ago that when I looked at my notes the other day, I thought I couldn't remember some of it. And we really do need recording of executive session minutes. Therefore, the section that says that recordings of executive sessions shouldn't happen is, I think, should be taken out. It should be up to the board at the time and the minute taker. And of course, they're very controversial. That's the first thing I wanted to say. So they have to be kept executive, confidential until they can be released. But the second thing I wanted to say is, okay, for the sake of briefness, I'm not going to say that. Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
Just gonna say about executive session minutes is the whole board is there that's at attendance of those meetings to approve those minutes. And it should be made at the time. But I do see a problem with executive session executive sessions being recorded and having the potential of that recording being accidentally posted or leaked out in some way because, once it exists, we've had stuff actually posted to our YouTube channel that shouldn't have been posted in the past. And so, that sort of leaves an editing issue that could be overlooked in posting that and in the release of an executive session into the public prior to that being released to the public. So there is some risk in recording executive session minutes, particularly on a Zoom platform, which is also a hackable platform. So
Okay.
that's it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
In the absence of recording executive sessions, would minutes be physically taken?
Oh, they always, yeah.
No. Okay, well, maybe that's sufficient then.
Mm-mm.
No?
Helen?
In my long experience, select boards, who are the main ones that have executive sessions, way far more than any other committee, those minutes are often less accurate than I would have liked them to be. So if there isn't a person on the board who says, hey, we've got to amend it this way and that way, those minutes can kind of gloss over stuff which the public should have a right to know once the business is resolved. That's what it says in the open meeting law in regard to executive session minutes. They should be exactly as open session minutes. It's just that we can control, in certain circumstances, their release, but their accuracy and their detail should be exactly what we need it to be, particularly so that we can remember what happened. Thank you.
Mike, you're muted. Mike.
I believe what John said is correct, that it's sufficient that there's someone taking minutes actively during the meeting, and that we all are there to approve those minutes and amend them prior to releasing them.
Okay, so I would propose an amendment. And that would be, so this is under procedures for remote participation, section 6, or the 6th item. And so at the end, after the last paragraph where it says, and that the session is not being remotely recorded by any device, I would add, unless authorized by the chair.
Sorry, which paragraph? Sorry to speak out of turn. Brian, which paragraph?
Under procedures for remote participation, number 6.
Sorry. You want to take that out? What?
No, it's at the very end of that paragraph. This is to address the recording with remote devices. At the end of the sentence where it says, and that the session is not being remotely recorded by any device, comma, unless authorized by the chair.
Second.
Yeah, I like that.
I
But
could go along with that.
isn't there a line somewhere before that? That refers to executive sessions not being, I did read this twice, sorry. Isn't there a line somewhere else in the body of this policy that says it can't happen in executive session?
1 second.
I don't see anything like that.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, that's the only. Yep.
That's the only reference to recording I see.
Yep.
Oh, I see. Yes, you're right. Thank you. Sorry, just being very careful.
Okay. Are there any other comments by the board? So I move to adopt the remote participation policy as amended.
Second. Oh,
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay,
Thanks, Ryan.
yep. So policy on town media policy. Again, this is basically a modification of a policy that Mia presented a few times in the past. And then with a few updates to the proposed language since it was last before the board. Are there any questions regarding it? Helen?
Yeah, I'm trying to raise my hand like a grown-up, sorry. You know, I'm really glad that we're going to have something. I liked a previous version of this that we got from when Mia Baumgarten was here. And like, for example, in the first section, which is number 1 policy, I think the phrase "and to serve as records of municipal meetings" should be included. The other thing that's somewhere in here, and you could do it, you know, as a number 7, is a reference to archiving. Because when I spoke with Mia about it back in the day, she said the classic thing, the thing that's actually required, I think, but wise in any case, is you archive these recordings in 3 recordings of meetings in 3 places, and that they're held forever, and that there is in the policy maintenance schedule, because, you know, she said, I forget what the material you would refer to as, but it sort of has to be redone at a certain point. That is not technical talk, but the activity is well referred to by my saying that. So I think there should be an archiving section in this.
Do you have proposed language?
I would like to, but I don't want to do it on the run right now during the meeting. And could we wait and just tweak this a tiny bit, Ryan, because we really need this.
Maybe. Mike?
I just want to make sure that we have the capacity to carry out this policy effective of like when we put it into effect, that like there's enough staff and technical technical assistance available to all of our committees before we put them in a position where they're violating media policy.
So if I can respond to that, is that the Comcast license fees are supposed to only be used for government or educational programming. And I mean, the funds from that are sufficient to generate capacity in the town of Wellfleet. We are probably going to continue meeting remotely, I would assume, until I forget what the date is, but until the midwinter or early winter, midwinter. That's when the current exception expires that allows remote meetings. And as long as it's being done primarily remotely, it's really easy to record it. If we adopt this policy now, it gives enough time for town administration to develop the capacity to serve. John?
Yeah, do we have staff in place to implement any of this? Since Mia has left?
Not yet, but Charlie? So I know that you're in discussion with some vendors.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Ryan. So the answer is we haven't moved on this matter yet. I wanted to allow this conversation to evolve a little bit. You know, I in the past, you've had an employee, Mia, who was from all accounts wonderful. A number of the towns, but you did it as a town employee. What I'd like to do is issue a request for proposal, so that, rather than having a town employee, it would be a contract. And I will say that there are, frankly, when I worked in Brewster, we contracted out as a gentleman, JP Ludwig, and Suzanne Bryant, who have a number of employees, and they run cable operations for Brewster, Truro, and Yarmouth. And so they have quite a bit of capacity, and they have, relatively large, staff, full-time, part-time. So there's a lot of flexibility by going in that direction. So I was, that was one of the issues that I wrote up in my report, frankly. And I'd like to maybe go forward with a request for proposal. And then, we could come up with some finalists, and then the select board could interview those folks and see what you think about their capabilities. And I will say too, that all of those towns have upgraded their facilities capability, where they have robust, virtual capacity, so they can run meetings with folks in the room, and then have virtual participation. And in order to do that, we would have to spend a fair amount of money to upgrade, in my mind, the COA, or the Adult Learning Center room, and then maybe the downstairs meeting room at Town Hall, so that we have more capacity to run good, solid virtual meetings.
Okay, John?
Just through you to Charlie, Is the idea behind putting out a bid for a vendor to get the town out of the business of having to deal with pensions and other benefits for?
John, that's off. That's off topic.
To
Order.
figure out what the benefit of a vendor is as opposed to a town employee.
Well, I think, yeah, I'll sort of maybe talk to one aspect of that. I think that in the past, as I understand it, we had an employee and that employee's hours were limited to about 15 hours per week. And I think that in that situation, it's hard to hire and retain someone with some continuity when it's a rather modest opportunity. So I think if we were to look towards contracting out, and anybody could submit a proposal for our consideration, I'd like to have some more bandwidth in terms of capacity and capability. And then if someone's on vacation, if someone is out on some personal matter, they have other folks within the organization that can provide the coverage we need. And I think the only other thing I was going to say was, now that we've entered this world where virtual meetings have been well received, I would say, and people can participate from anywhere. That we need to beef up our capacity, and the equipment and the capabilities. They're technical, so I think we want to have hire someone or some group of people that has the capacity to run a complex system over time.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. It makes sense to me.
Helen?
Yeah, I found the sentence that says executive session shall not be recorded was in this. Okay, so it's under 2 content, and we've just decided that, these recordings can happen, which by the way is essential for the minute taker, really. But the sentence that comes just before the last sentence about the Taxation Aid Committee, and I do have language now, but let's not do it now. Executive sessions may be recorded, and we have a policy that says if the chair says so, but may only be available in compliance to the public in compliance with the open meeting law. So, in other words, I frankly think it makes the people who meet in executive session more accountable, just as we are in open meetings, and that it makes executive session meetings go better. It would help if we understood that we have to be just as careful with what we say and how we act. And I'm not talking about this set of board members necessarily. I'm talking about previous experiences in other executive sessions where things really got quite different. So there's that. And then to have a section, as I said before, I'm not going to repeat myself, about archiving.
Okay, Mike?
I was just gonna say that I think that having having what Charlie said, the contracted services, that seems a whole lot more feasible than having someone 15 hours for this in order to carry it out. So provided that we have the resources, I am for this. And did Helen have a amendment that she just?
She did, but she also, so for members of the board, I would just say that we have a duty to come prepared to our meetings. And if, this policy has been out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And if there are amendments that somebody wants, they should be ready to provide them, and not have it as an agenda item at a future meeting unless there is some new information provided. So, Charlie, or
Yeah, thank you. And I, just relative to a sort of a point that Mike DeVasto raised, and Ryan had mentioned it, we appropriate in the range of about $135,000 a year from revenues. And while we're still trying to verify some of our account balances, as you know, I would say that we have unspent prior revenues from the cable that are probably north of a couple of $100,000. So we have quite a bit of capacity. Now, in talking with the town administrator in Brewster, because I've been participating in some meetings there as a moderator relative to upcoming town meeting, they have just upgraded their equipment, and this is expensive equipment, and to set up a room, it could be in the range of $70,000 to $80,000. That would really be, in my mind, the Council on Aging Adult Learning Center as a principal, and then we would have some portable equipment, maybe some other places. I know we had talked about the library, and I purposely didn't include the library when I made those comments because the library trustees have already voted that they would not allow any permanent installed audio visual or recording devices in their meeting rooms. And that's, I'll provide some more information on that, but that's relative to a long-standing issue relative to libraries. But anyway, I think we could work on a draft RFP and scope, and maybe we could share that with the board to make sure that we can have a conversation about it, to make sure that we're covering the issues that you would want to before we went out for a RFP.
okay, Mike.
Yeah, I just had one amendment that I'd like to add, and it's very simple, and I would just move that it would say in the first sentence of section 2 that they will be recorded by audio video for streaming and /or television broadcast in their entirety. Just so that, we have quite a few committees. Not all of them will presumably be broadcast on television, not every meeting. So just to be clear in the policy that some will just potentially be streamed.
Okay. Helen.
Yeah, this is a very good document, and I agree with you, Brian. It's good to have stuff in before a meeting. Breathing room is sometimes made available, as it was when there was the Shellfish Regulation amendment you wanted. And the thing is, I read this when I got my packet on Friday, and then I thought about it some more, right? So I could have thought about it some more right away. I had it in my head, and I came up with what I just proposed. Do you really need language at this meeting, or can we wait for language, the few amendments? Mike suggested one, I've suggested two, so I can get back to Mia and ask her what those 3 places that you are supposed to archive things, and I'll write that section and submit it if you wish me to. It should be brief. It should say all recordings should be kept for X amount of time. I think it's forever, and should be archived in 3 places. And that would be very good. And I think it's looking to the future, because I have a feeling that is the way in which minutes are going to be taken in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, luckily we had one thing that was going to be on the September 28th meeting is actually going to be a little bit later than that. So there is space in the September 28th meeting, but I mean, we really do need to act on things when it comes before the board. And this has already come before the board once and gone through the policy on policies. But I am willing to delay on it till the 28th, but we really need to get in the habit of dealing with things when they come before us and not delaying action. So
I'd be willing to vote on it as it stands
So would I.
right now, if it said and or, and I don't think that really matters, because I just don't want there to be a situation where, you know, every single thing can't fit on our broadcast thing, and
Okay,
that's the issue I have.
so you guys, Ryan?
Go ahead, Helen.
Yes, if you guys want to vote, I can propose actual language, okay?
So what's the language for the executive session?
Executive sessions may be recorded, but shall only be available to the public in compliance with the open meeting law. That's the First Amendment. And it's in the number 2 content. It's in that sentence about executive sessions, which is the second to last sentence. There's a typo in 3. It's a town media personnel. Okay. Town media personnel. Do we see that?
No.
Okay, and to add, I'm sorry, back to number 1 policy, to add at the end of that paragraph, after and the community, comma, and to serve as records of municipal meetings, which they do already. And then the last thing, I wrote language for just now. It's section 7, archiving. All recordings shall be maintained according to the best practices for archiving recordings of public meetings, and they exist, and shall be maintained forever, which is not hard to do. I went over this in detail with Mia, and it's a very good thing to do, so that you're not having to get a box of papers out of a moldy room somewhere that nobody can find. Because I've done that, and it's a real drag. So this would be a very good move. What do we think? Do you want me to go over the language again?
So I would do 7, an archive of all recordings shall be maintained in 3 locations and shall be retained in
perpetuity.
Yeah.
In 3 locations, comma, according to best practices. Okay. Because there is a kind of routine way of doing that that's recommended. Okay.
In accordance with best practices.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
That include recordings of executive sessions that were taken only for the purposes of accurate minutes?
Yes. Mike? You still have
Oh, sorry. Just put my hand up.
Can I respond to Mike?
Yep.
So Mike, here's what's happened in my lifetime. Yeah, it's very useful for the minute taker. But I'd rather leave that language out because it includes the word only. Because frankly, what can happen is in 10 years, somebody will have to access that recording, which has been released, you know, possibly because the issue is over and resolved. And there are other uses for those recordings besides just taking accurate minutes, although in my opinion, that's about the most important one. So I would leave out the only, and that, you know, in other words, there are a number of reasons to make a recording, and that doesn't have to be referred to. It's almost, I don't know a single minute taker right now that's working for the town that doesn't refer to the recordings. So maybe leave that out.
Okay. So I move to adopt the town media policy as amended.
Ellen second.
Roll call vote, please.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you for your kindness.
And Helen, can you send me the exact language so I don't make a mistake later?
And what I'll do is if Rebecca sends me a doc I can write into, I'll send it to you. Okay?
I just
Send me a doc I can write into and I'll,
send it to you. So,
okay?
yep.
A Word doc, please.
Yep. So, okay. So Suicide Awareness Month. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I do not think there is the requester on. I don't think they are. 1 second. Okay, I don't see them, but I'm not 100% sure. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So I move to proclaim the month of September in the town of Wellfleet as Suicide Awareness Month. And the proclamation and issue the proclamation as printed in the packet.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Select board reports.
Uh,
Go ahead, Helen.
So I attended the cemetery commissioners meeting last week. And I was particularly interested in their progress on the green burial idea. I again recommend that we all look at the meeting they had where they called in green burial experts and had basically a very good and very entertaining, wasn't lightweight, but it was really great watching session meeting on green burials. So I recommend that to everybody. At their last meeting, they have a draft guidelines about green burials that they have pulled together to look at, and they haven't acted on it yet. And it's available. It was on their agenda as an attachment, or, you know, it was available as an attachment to that meeting. And I would like to see their final version before we discuss it. And also I believe that, you know, they have an authority that surpasses ours because they're elected and they're cemetery commissioners. So I would like to get their approved guidelines for green burials, and also have included in our packets the authority Mass General Law, conferred by Mass General Law, for their authority. I've looked at it in the last year, but I think we should all have it before we discuss it further, because we as a board or individuals can give them suggestions and a wish list. And I've been yapping about it for years. Thank you.
Okay. I'm probably forgetting something, but tomorrow there is a Conscom public hearing with a request by the Mass Audubon to reduce the parking at the Lieutenant Island Boathouse, which affects a number of shellfishers, both grant holders and wild pickers. So just and the public hearings start at 5 p.m. Tomorrow. Helen, is your hand still up, or?
No, I just raised it because I think I know what you forgot.
Okay.
On the 9th, I think you went to the Water Protection Collaborative meeting.
No, they didn't have a quorum, so they, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, you know.
Okay, Nancy.
Hi, So I would like to provide a little bit of clarification on the Lieutenant Island situation. It's something that the Rights of Public Access Committee has been working on hand in hand with Audubon. So they're not trying to reduce really the amount of parking spaces. This is in the southwest corner of the island at the end of Meadow Ave. It's more that it has really nothing to do with Shellfishman at all. It's people are just randomly parking there, and they are starting to destroy all of the marsh grass in that area. So we have been meeting diligently with Melissa Lowe from Mass Audubon, and the Shellfishmen are totally on the Shellfish representatives that are on the Rights of Public Access Committee have been very supportive of this effort, because it's mostly a high tide thing, not a low tide thing. And in the summertime, there's not a lot of shell fishing over there. And in addition, Audubon, the other thing that's on the CONSCOM agenda on Wednesday is that at the request of the shell fishermen, Audubon is putting forward a proposal to fill in a very obstinate hole going out to what we call the Audubon area. So I just want to make clear that this is absolutely in partnership with the shellfishing community.
It's not the southwest corner that they have, and it is to reduce parking. That's as it's posted. It's
Not at the end of Meadow Ave. Where is it?
the boathouse.
Okay, so that's different.
Yeah.
That's not something that they've ever brought up at Right to Public Access, but so I guess I'll look into that. But the way I read it on the CONSCOM agenda, I thought it was southwest corner.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, but there might be an issue with posting. So, all right, Charlie.
Thank you. So I'll just go through a couple of things in my report, if that's okay. Relative to item number 1, the water department contract for services, actually, we did advertise. We worked with town council, finalized the bid document, and we've advertised that as of today. So the bids will be due on October 12th, 2021 at 11 o'clock. So that is moving along. And then also just today, we also advertised the bid for the installation of the new water main, for the Coles Neck well field. And that bid will be due November 13th at 11 a.m. So there's some good things happening in the water department. The only reason item number 2 on the Route 6 Main Street intersection project is, I think last time I had reported on this, I indicated the meeting would be at 7 o'clock, and I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that they advertised the meeting for 6:30 p.m. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't all collectively make mistakes with our calendars. Item number 3 on the Wellfleet Harbor dredging, we've already dealt with most of those issues earlier in the agenda. I think the one thing I'd like to highlight is that the town did receive a grant in the amount of $39,600 to help with the dredging and permitting phase for area number 2 from the Seaport Economic Council. Will Sullivan and Rebecca Slick and some members from the dredging committee, Harbor Dredging Committee, went to that ceremony, which was nice. I already talked about, I believe, item number 4 on media services on your previous agenda item. On item number 5, the building commissioner vacancy, I want to let you know Vic Staley, who's the retired building commissioner from Brewster, started work as an interim in Wellfleet on September 7th. And for complete disclosure, I hired Victor from Wellfleet like 22 years ago. So, but I did go to his retirement party in Brewster and told him we had a desperate need, and he was really happy to step in to help out. So thank you to Vic Staley. He's already on board helping out. And on that same note, as of this afternoon, we already had advertised, and I told you before, we were going through interviews for a permanent building commissioner, and we have finalized a process and would offer it a position to Vinnie Tyrone. Vinnie is the building commissioner in Munson, Mass. He's a certified Mass building commissioner, which is a big deal and very important. He's going to be starting, I'll be sending you his resume and some background information tomorrow, so you have a chance to take a look at that in more detail. And right now we've tentatively talked about Vinnie starting work, I believe, in October 5th. Also, Vinnie is a member of the U.S. Army National, I'm sorry, the U.S. Army National Guard, and he was also a member of the U.S. Marine Corps as well. But anyway, most importantly, he's a well-qualified, capable person. His reference checks were great. He'll have a transition period. He'll work for us part-time for several weeks as he relocates here and transitions. But the nice thing is we have Victor Staley, who will also be working and covering those other times. So I think we're in a good place relative to the building department. The number 6 is the town of Truro, and I guess Provincetown and Wellfleet had received some funding from the state to do a medical services study. And there was a kickoff meeting last week. Chief Polly did attend that. I had a conflict. And then on number 7, on the max on the pier, I actually did get a draft license agreement from town council yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So I just at least wanted to let you know, since that kind of fell through the cracks in the past, we're on it. And I'm going to take a look at that hopefully this week. And then I'll talk to Ryan about, getting that on a future select board agenda to get your input on the document itself. But anyway, it's in good shape. And then item number 8 in my report, we advertised and interviewed for DPW superintendent's position. We didn't receive many applications, but we received a really good one, and that was Jay Norton. Jay is the assistant superintendent and currently the interim DPW superintendent. Rebecca Slick and I met with Jay today to start conversations about a contract. And we're working on that, and I'll try to finalize that to an extent by the end of the week. And then I'm going to send it off for town council to take a look at as well. So I'd like, just a number of things that we've made pretty good progress on that have taken a fair amount of time and energy. I think that's all I have.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, so I'm really glad to hear this about Mr. Norton, really glad. And I, as one person on the board, have no wish to exercise my veto option, our 14-day thing. Can we all say something about it so that it's liberated?
It's not on the agenda.
Well, the discussion, you're right about that as an agenda item, but so if we take no action, that would satisfy me. In other words, if this doesn't get brought up under future concerns, right? I'm good with it. That's the point.
I'll put it on the agenda for September 28th, just because we've been in the practice of having these always on our agendas, and we can take no action at that point.
Is that within the 14 days, Charlie? Through you, Ryan?
Yeah, it would be exactly 14 days, so I think it's good.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And by then, I'm sorry, through the chair, and by then I'll have the, the contract in legal form. That's going to take a week or so anyway.
but it can't be confirmed if, never mind.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I meant the draft contract just to get the language in shape. But yes, I do understand that issue. But at least all of the elements will be ready to finalize matters. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, correspondence and vacancies. There was a letter that was sent to us. I sent it to the board, sent to us physically. It was sent by a certified mail. And it has a number of abutters to the utility corridor in regards to the bike and walkways recommendations. Helen?
Yeah, if you remember, during the roundtable meeting, the people, the agency said, yes, please forward any correspondence. So I put together a kind of email with all the things we've gotten since then, or more recently. And this is added to that. And I'm just waiting until just, reasonably closer to the 25% thing to send it. Remember, they said, yes, please send it along. The multiple, the huge amount of correspondence we got about this before that, I did not collect, but it exists and it should be sent to them. I'm not going to do that. Thank you.
Okay, and then I would also like to add that both the Cape Cod Commission and the Cape Cod National Seashore sent in fairly lengthy letters as well in regards to the bike and walkways recommendations.
I read those too.
I included them in my big thing.
So, okay. So approval of minutes for August 10th.
A few amendments.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, there's a typo in one on page one. It's HDYLTA property. There's an L in there. It's not a big deal. And then there's something that could be a little bit controversial if somebody just read it. Wasn't at the meeting. It's on page 7. And it's when we were discussing, John Wolf updated the board that he spoke with the district mosquito control staff. And I hope, John, you're listening because I think I remember this pretty accurately, but you'll tell me if I don't. And gave an update on the word in here, the verb is spraying for mosquitoes, which they don't always do. And it's a very, very controversial word.
Yeah, that's not what I would have said.
Treatment for mosquitoes is, I think, a good safe verb because I don't remember you saying spraying because then I would have, jumped up and down and waved my arms and.
No, I specifically said application of larvicide.
Okay, good. So I wasn't completely out of it. So I would like to amend, gave an update on the application of larvicide for mosquitoes there in the minutes. Is that okay, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in the second part of that sentence, they were not allowed to cut the vegetation area to treat where needed, to use the verb treat, okay? Not spray. Thank you.
Yep.
So those 3 amendments to that section. That's all I have.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes of August 10th, 2021 as amended.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen abstained because I didn't read the whole thing carefully. Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 3-0 or 3-0 with one abstention. I move to adjourn.
Second,
Discussion, Ryan.
What?
Did we already do topics for future discussion?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Sorry,
Sorry, I skipped something somewhere.
yeah, I have one. That's good.
1 second.
I didn't see that in there, actually. Unless I skipped it too.
Yeah, I bring one up.
It depends on if it's on here, I guess.
I'm looking at the agenda sheet.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's between Charlie's report and correspondence, and you know, that's okay. So my topic for future discussion is we have to set the tax rate. Thank you.
So I've been in discussion with Charlie about that. So my understanding is that they need some time. Is that correct, Charlie? For setting the tax rate.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we do. And I think I briefly mentioned it during the financial overview. We're going to be having a conversation with the Department of Revenue to review their submittal requirements to make sure that we're in compliance. After we have that meeting, I'll have a better idea when we can move forward with that process. So probably at the next meeting, I'll have an update.
Okay. Any others? Okay, so I move to adjourn.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
And I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen, I love you all.
Good
Goodbye.
night, all.